Hello, curious minds, and welcome to a new intellectual exploration. Today we delve into the life and work of an unclassifiable thinker, a man who walked among the ruins of modernity and saw what no one else could. We are talking about Walter Benjamin. His thought is a fascinating labyrinth where Jewish mysticism meets historical materialism. Benjamin was the archaeologist of his own time. Someone who believed that the truth of our civilization lay hidden in the debris of history. How is it possible that an essay written in 1936 predicted our current obsession with images and screens with such accuracy? That is the big question we will try to answer today. Get ready to question the way you see art. Before we begin, a brief comment. To bring this narration to life, I have used artificial intelligence tools to generate the images you see. Think of them as a canvas, a way to illustrate the ideas and the atmosphere of the story we are telling. They won't always be a literal representation, but rather a visual accompaniment to help your imagination soar with me. I truly hope you enjoy it and that these visual postcards help you immerse yourself in Benjamin's melancholic atmosphere. To understand Benjamin, we must first understand his end, a tragic end that defines his legacy. It is September 1940. In a small border town called Portbou, between France and Spain, Benjamin is fleeing from the Nazi Gestapo. He carries a black suitcase with him. It is said to have contained his most important manuscript, a work that could change our view of history. But that suitcase was never found. Benjamin, trapped and with no way out, decides to take his own life before being captured. This image of the wandering philosopher with his lost suitcase is the perfect metaphor for his work. A fragmentary thought, incomplete and yet precious. Benjamin was born in Berlin in 1892 into an assimilated Jewish family. From a young age, he showed extraordinary intellectual sensitivity. He was not a traditional academic philosopher. In fact, his habilitation thesis was rejected for being incomprehensible to the professors of the time. This closed the doors of the university to him forever. This rejection turned him into an independent writer, an intellectual freelancer who lived off his articles and reviews. This precariousness gave him a unique freedom. He could write about toys, children's books, architecture, or hashish with the same seriousness. His circle of friends was as eclectic as his mind. On one side, Gershom Scholem, the great scholar of Jewish mysticism and the Kabbalah. On the other, Bertolt Brecht, the radical Marxist playwright. Benjamin lived always in the tension between theology and Marxism. Imagine a man trying to fuse the messianic hope of religion with the materialist analysis of class struggle. That explosive mixture is what makes Benjamin so powerful. He does not reject the mystical past, but uses it to awaken us in the present. One of his most fascinating concepts is that of the flaneur, a French term that translates as a stroller or wanderer, but not just any stroller. The flaneur is the urban observer who walks aimlessly through the city, letting himself be carried away by the spectacle of the street. For Benjamin, Paris was the capital of the 19th century, and the flaneur was the eye of that modernity. While the crowd rushes to their jobs, the flaneur walks slowly. Sometimes he even strolled with turtles to set his pace against the speed of capitalism. This wanderer gets lost in the Paris arcades. Glass-roofed shopping galleries, precursors to our modern malls. For Benjamin, these arcades were temples of consumerism where commodities were displayed like sacred idols. This is where his great unfinished project, the Arcades Project, comes in. Benjamin wanted to write a prehistory of modernity using only fragments, quotes, and descriptions of objects. He wanted to assemble history as if it were a film using the technique of montage. He thought that the truth was not in grand philosophical systems, but in the smallest details. In an old toy, in an advertisement, or in the fashion of an era, These fragments were monads, crystals that contain the totality of history. But let's leave the streets of Paris and enter his most famous essay, The Work of Art in the Age of Mechanical Reproduction. Written in 1936, this text is fundamental to understanding our contemporary visual culture. Benjamin introduces a key concept here, the aura. What is the aura? It is the unique phenomenon of a distance, however close it may be. In simple terms, it is the uniqueness and authenticity of an original work of art. It's here and now. Think of the Mona Lisa in the Louvre. It has an aura because it is unique. It has a physical history. It has been in a specific place for centuries. Its presence is linked to tradition and ritual. Seeing it in person is an almost religious or cult-like experience. But what happens when we take a photograph of the Mona Lisa? Or better yet, what about cinema? The camera can reproduce the image millions of times. The copy detaches from the original. The work of art loses its uniqueness. It loses its aura. Benjamin does not say this with purely reactionary nostalgia. He observes a fundamental shift. Art moves from having a cult value, a ritual value, to having an exhibition value. The important thing is no longer that the work exists, but that it is seen by many. With photography and cinema, art becomes democratic, but also mass-produced. You no longer need to go to a temple or a palace to see the sacred image. The image comes to you. It is in your magazine, in your cinema, and today we would say, on your smartphone. This changes our perception. Cinema trains us to perceive the world in a distracted and tactile way, through shocks. The rapid cuts of film editing bombard our senses. Benjamin saw in this a training for modern life. But here comes the darkest political warning. If art loses its aura and becomes mass-produced, it can be manipulated. Benjamin saw how fascism used new media, film, and radio to aestheticize politics. To make politics a spectacle, fascism gives the masses a chance to express themselves, but not to change their property rights. War is presented as something aesthetically beautiful. Think of perfectly choreographed military parades. It is death turned into art. Benjamin responds with a chilling sentence. Communism must respond by politicizing art. It is not about making beautiful art about politics, but about making art itself a political tool that awakens critical consciousness and breaks the illusion. Now let's turn to his philosophy of history, perhaps the most moving and mystical part of his work. In 1940, shortly before his death, he wrote his Theses on the Philosophy of History. It is his intellectual testament. Benjamin attacks the idea of progress. For social democracy and bourgeois thought, history is a straight line moving forward toward something better, a homogeneous and empty time, as if every second were the same as the last and inevitably brought us closer to paradise. For Benjamin, this is a dangerous illusion. Progress is a catastrophe that piles wreckage upon wreckage. History is not the history of the victors, those kings and generals who build monuments. True history is the history of the defeated. This is where Benjamin's most famous image appears, the Angel of History. Inspired by a painting by Paul Klee called Angelus Novus, which Benjamin owned and kept as a treasure. Let's imagine how Benjamin describes this angel. The angel has his face turned toward the past. Where we see a chain of events, he sees one single catastrophe which keeps piling wreckage upon wreckage and hurls it in front of his feet. The angel would like to stay, awaken the dead, and make whole what has been smashed. But a storm is blowing from paradise. This storm has got caught in his wings and is so strong that the angel can no longer close them. The storm irresistibly propels him into the future to which his back is turned, while the pile of debris before him grows skyward. That storm is what we call progress. It is a brutal image. Progress is not improvement. It is an uncontrollable force that drives us away from our origin and prevents us from redeeming the past. It stops us from doing justice to the victims left behind. So, is there no hope? Yes, there is, but it is a strange hope. Benjamin speaks of now time, or Jetztzeit. It is not the time of the clock. It is an instant where time stands still, a moment of danger where the past flashes up. For Benjamin, revolution is not the locomotive of history. It is the moment when humanity, traveling on that train, pulls the emergency brake. It is stopping the catastrophe. It is interrupting the mechanical course of events. This vision connects with his messianism. Every second is the small gate through which the Messiah might enter. But in secular terms, it means that every moment has revolutionary potential. The past is not closed. It can be rewritten. Benjamin teaches us to brush history against the grain, not to believe the official version, to look into the silences, into what is not told. His method is that of a rag picker who collects the waste that others ignore to find something valuable within it. Let's talk now about his writing style. Benjamin did not write systematic treatises. He wrote in constellations. He juxtaposed ideas, quotes, and images without obvious logical connectors, hoping that the spark of truth would leap between them. He was a master of the quotation. He dreamed of writing a book composed entirely of quotes. He believed that taking a text out of its original context and placing it in a new one was a way to save it, to update its power, like a DJ remixing the past. This method is incredibly modern. Think about how we navigate the internet today. We jump from one hyperlink to another, building our own path of knowledge through fragments. Benjamin was the precursor of hypertext before computer science existed. His legacy was rescued by his friends, especially Adorno and Scholem, who published his works after the war. The Frankfurt School took many of his ideas, though sometimes softening his mysticism or his radical Marxism, depending on who was editing him. Today, Walter Benjamin is more relevant than ever. We live in the age of absolute digital reproducibility. Artificial intelligence generates infinite images without an original. The aura seems to have died definitively. Or perhaps it has been transformed. Mass surveillance, data control, and the aestheticization of politics on social media are themes that Benjamin helps us decode. He saw the danger of technology being used to dominate us instead of liberating us. But he also left us a task. The task of being materialist historians, to not forget the victims, to read the ruins, to seek in every moment the opportunity to stop the machinery and change course. Benjamin was a melancholic, but a revolutionary melancholic. His sadness was not passive. It was a form of resistance, a refusal to accept that the world as it is the only possibility, a refusal to forget. The literary critic Terry Eagleton once said that Benjamin moves between the synagogue and the railway station, between ancient tradition and accelerated modernity. And it is at that crossroads where we also find ourselves today. Let's remember his end in Portbou. Benjamin's grave there is an impressive monument, a steel passage that descends toward the sea and is cut off abruptly above the water, a tribute to his interrupted work. At the end of the tunnel, there is a glass pane that prevents falling into the sea. On it, a phrase of his is engraved. It is a more arduous task to honor the memory of anonymous beings than that of the celebrated. Historical construction is devoted to the memory of the nameless. Walter Benjamin teaches us that the past is not dead. It is waiting for us, in the present, to wake it up. That every generation has a secret appointment with the previous generations, an appointment to redeem them. His thought is difficult, yes. It is dense and fragmentary, but it is like a diamond. If you turn it to the light, it throws off flashes of different colors. Politics, theology, literary criticism, art theory, it is all compressed there. Let's go back to the idea of the aura for a second. Today, we desperately seek authentic experiences. We travel to see real things. We eat artisanal food. Isn't that a nostalgia for the aura that Benjamin predicted we would lose? However, Benjamin also saw the positive potential. By losing the aura, art becomes accessible. It is no longer for a chosen few. Cinema can be analyzed by everyone. We can hit pause, rewind, and criticize what we see. This is crucial. Benjamin wanted active spectators, not passive ones. He wanted us to be critical experts, to not just swallow the movie of life without questioning who wrote the script and who is directing the scene. In his essay on the storyteller, Benjamin laments that the art of storytelling is being lost. Information has replaced wisdom. A newspaper story is ephemeral. It is consumed and thrown away. A narrated story leaves a mark and offers counsel. Today we are flooded with information but hungry for wisdom. Benjamin invites us to recover narration, to share real experiences, not just data, to weave communal memory against the isolation of mass society. Let's talk about his relationship with language. For Benjamin, language is not just a tool to communicate things. It is something almost magical. Naming things is giving them life. In the name dwells the spiritual essence of the human being. This mystical vision of language clashes and mixes with his materialist vision. It is that constant tension that makes reading Benjamin an electric experience. You are never sure if you are reading a rabbi or a revolutionary, and that is precisely his lesson. We don't have to choose between spirituality and politics. We can seek spiritual redemption through political action and vice versa. Theology needs Marxism, and Marxism needs theology. Benjamin was a collector. He collected books, toys, quotes. He said that for the collector, ownership is the deepest relationship one can have with objects. Not to use them, but to save them from the market and from oblivion. The collector frees things from their utility. He returns their dignity to them. In a world where everything is valued by its price or its function, Benjamin teaches us to love things for what they are, for their history and their mystery. This rescue attitude applies to all of his thought. Rescuing forgotten ideas, rescuing marginalized authors, rescuing suppressed historical moments. Benjamin is the great lifeguard of Western culture in danger. As we near the end of this journey, I want you to think about the angel of history one more time. Imagine him today, looking at our wars, our climate crises, our inequality. What does he see? Does he see progress, or does he see more ruins? The storm of progress is blowing harder than ever. But Benjamin would tell us not to despair, because right at the moment of greatest danger is where that which saves us grows. The capacity to awaken. Awakening from the dream of consumption, awakening from the nightmare of repetitive history. That awakening is the ultimate goal of his philosophy, an awakening that is both political and spiritual. His work remained unfinished, broken, scattered, but perhaps that is its greatest strength. By not being a closed system, it invites us to complete it. It invites us to take the fragments and build our own constellation of meaning. Walter Benjamin did not want to be a guide or a leader. He wanted to be a traveling companion, a friend who walks by your side through the night city and points out things you hadn't seen. The gargoyle on the building, the beggar on the corner, the glow of the moon. His sensitivity to suffering and his sharp intelligence make him an indispensable thinker for times of crisis. He reminds us that barbarism is not the opposite of civilization, but that it often hides within it. Every document of civilization is at the same time a document of barbarism. That phrase by Benjamin should be engraved at the entrance of every museum. It forces us to ask, at whose expense was this beauty built? So the next time you visit a museum, watch a movie, or walk through a shopping mall, take Benjamin with you. Put on his glasses, look at the details, search for the aura, and above all, distrust blind progress. Benjamin's philosophy is an invitation to live with your eyes open, to take nothing for granted, to find the extraordinary in the ordinary, and to keep alive the hope that the past can be redeemed. In a world that pushes us to forget, Benjamin is the guardian of memory. In a world that sells us bright futures, he points out the ruins of the present so that we can build a true future. We have traveled through his life from Berlin to Paris and finally to Portbou. We have explored his ideas on art, history, and politics. But this video is only an introduction, a threshold. The real adventure begins when you open one of his books. When you face his dense and poetic prose, I assure you it is an effort worth making. It will change the way you look at the world. If I had to summarize Benjamin in a single image, it would be that of an archaeologist of the future. Someone who excavates our present to understand what we were and what we could have been. Thank you for joining me on this journey through melancholy and hope. It has been an honor to share the ideas of this giant of thought with you. I hope the angel of history has whispered something in your ear. Critical thinking is a flame that we must all keep alive together. And authors like Benjamin are the fuel we need. Let's not let it go out. If this analysis has made you think, if it has moved something inside you, I invite you to subscribe. Here we will continue exploring the great ideas that shape our world. Don't forget to hit the bell so you don't miss the next constellation. Comment below, what do you think about the loss of the aura? Do you think digital art can have a soul? I would love to read your reflections and continue the conversation there. Until next time, restless minds, remember that history is not written in stone. We write it every day. Be the flaneurs of your own life. Observe, walk, and never stop asking questions. Goodbye.